guys, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast. Today we're talking politics, and with me are Arthur Hill from North Carolina and Robert Thompson from Georgia. I'm a Marylander transplanted into South Carolina, and together we're the Dixie Dems. There is a ton to talk about today, from the debacle of the second Republican presidential debate to Trump, his indictments and all that, Joe Manchin and the No Labels Party, lewd public activities by two female politicians, book bans, the ridiculous GOP effort to impeach Biden, the right-wing nutcase Republicans' efforts to shut the government down, and much more. So stay with us.
Welcome to Lean to the Left, home of no-holds-barred commentary, plus interviews with fascinating people. Some of them top experts, others simply with interesting stories to tell. You'll never know who'll show up at Lean to the Left. Now here's your host, Bob Gaddy.
Now, Arthur Hill is communications chair of the Brunswick County, North Carolina Democratic Party, and Robert Thompson is based in Atlanta. He founded Peach News Now and his opinion podcast, Goddamn Liberals. Me, I do communications work for the Horry County, South Carolina Democratic Party, in addition to hosting this podcast and producing the Lean to the Left blog site. So welcome, guys, to the Dixie Dems on the Lean to the Left podcast. We're going to have some fun today. So first, let's talk about the GOP debate. What'd you guys think?
I thought the Daily Kos comments were great and right on target. I continue to believe that the real sleeper candidate in that crowd, if there is one, is your former governor of South Carolina, Bob. But she didn't come off very well last night, did she? And I think that I don't think any of them exactly burnished their credentials. I can't believe they didn't attack Trump.
I watched part of it. I could not watch it all. I watched part of it. I thought that they were all a bunch of idiots, and they just sounded awful.
I had more important things to do last night, like bowling and living my best life. And apparently that other guy that's leading them all, he also had more important things to do, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, like trying to figure out how to keep out of jail, huh?
Yeah. It's sad. And how many of them were on stage since you watched some of it?
I watched some of it. I don't know what, there were 6 or 7 of them that I can't remember who they all are now, but I know Vivek guy, he sounds like a Mr. Know-it-all to me.
Nobody's saying anything about Pence today. It's all Nikki Haley and Ramaswamy, and nothing about Pence. Very little about DeSantis. It's interesting how these folks comment. I meant to listen in on the comments that the writers were making while the debate was actually going on, and I forgot to set that up, so I didn't hear any of that. But that would have been interesting too. And then Trump having his meeting with the people in the auto workers, and that was bogus. Where you got about 150 people to show up, and they caught one guy who wasn't a member of the union and tried to get, or wasn't even an auto worker, and tried to get stuff out of him, and it just seemed to me to be all bogus. So he didn't score.
You mentioned, Arthur, the Daily Kos comments. I have it up on my screen right now, and for those people who are listening who haven't seen them, there's some really good comments here in this piece by the Daily Kos. One paragraph I'm looking at right now, quote, "This time it was absolutely the right call. If the 6 candidates on stage proved anything tonight, it was that they aren't fit to run the local animal control office, much less anything of actual importance." I thought that was pretty good. And the right call that he's referring to is Trump's decision to miss the debate. It says, ultimately, it didn't matter much as the Trump juggernaut is plowing through a Republican field that is afraid to take him on directly. And that's true. You pointed out, Arthur, they were all afraid to, except for what's his face from New Jersey?
Christie, yeah.
Christie from New Jersey, yeah. What do you call him, Donald Duck? Yeah, I thought that was rather childish. But then they're Republicans, and they're Trump Republicans, and Trump loves to call people names. And so I guess they're taking a cue from Trump.
I guess a lot of people, a lot of commentators have said that the reason they're not taking on Trump is because they're all auditioning to be his vice presidential choice. I can't believe Christie would do that, but that's what they say. And I wonder if, and then Trump said, said recently, he's not going to select any of those clowns to be his vice presidential candidate. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand the strategy.
I think they should all breathe a sigh of relief if he doesn't, because whoever gets connected up with Trump is tainted by all of Trump's legal problems.
Yeah.
You guys remember Rachel Maddow during the Trump presidency? That they had that image that she would bring up every time someone went through the revolving door of the White House.
Yeah.
And finally, they ran out of room because the print got so small of all the people running through the White House that they had to go on to page 2 and page 3. Everybody that gets involved with them, they go running away screaming, except for Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, if you want to go work for Trump, you better count on your reputation getting shot. That's
absolutely. Now I'm looking at the Daily Cause comments about your comment, Arthur, that Trump says he won't choose any of those people for his running mate. And Daily Cause says, of course, we know that already. He'll choose some nut like failed Arizona gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake or Pillow Man Mike Lindell. And then it says, maybe the audience didn't hear enough about Hunter Biden, but they were bored to tears. They did liven up when DeSantis bragged about his fascist book burning crusade in Florida, however, but that also makes them losers. So yeah, it's a really good piece. People should check it out. It's Daily Cause, DAILYKOS.com.
Tell us what you really think, Cos. Meanwhile, can I talk a little bit about Judge Engoron up in New York?
Sure, you can talk about anything you want to, Arthur.
What he decided a couple of days ago. I don't think that this decision that he made is getting nearly enough attention. This really hits Trump where he lives. All his life, he's crowed and crowed about what a successful and great businessman he is. And now here is documented evidence that he's not. And not only that, he's pretty much been given the death sentence as far as doing business in New York is concerned, which has a incremental effect on the business that he's done everywhere else because it all flows through New York at some point. He could wind up very shortly being bankrupt. They're going to take away all the assets of the Trump global organization. They're going to sell them, and you're going to use that to help pay off whatever his fine's going to be for the violations he's committed. Plus, the banks have the right to ask for their original loans back. If he borrowed $100 million from a bank to buy a building in downtown Manhattan, and even if he paid off the loan, that doesn't count because he paid off the loan with illegally gotten funds. So he's got to pay the original loan back out of his pocket. I can't, it's difficult for me to imagine what could go to Trump's solar plexus more than that decision did, up to and including counts of sedition in any of these other cases. I think this one really has to hurt him.
Yeah.
Well, 2 things. Let's recall when he came to Georgia and was booked, remember, he could not scrounge up the money for his own bail. He had to get a bail bondsman. This alleged billionaire couldn't even pay his own bail money. Number 2, I remember back when I worked in the mortgage business, New York State is one of the most difficult states to do business in. The license to do mortgages in New York, one of the questions, they wanted to know where your grandparents were buried on the license application. It is one of the most difficult states to do business in the U.S. And so bless his heart that this is where his father started business years ago and where he was handed all this on a silver platter. And this is what comes with it. Bless his heart.
This is what happens when you lie, cheat, and steal for 35 and 40 years in a row, particularly in New York. I think he's toast. I think financially he's toast. And he can't blame that on Biden. He can't blame that on any Democrat at all, except Letitia James, maybe. But she didn't make that. She didn't make that call. The judge made the call based on evidence, based on documented evidence. He said his complex in the Trump Tower where he lives is 30,000 square feet, and it turns out it's only 3,000 square feet. Just lie after lie, and he got caught on all of it. Amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's toast.
You're right. I think that's a really important case that's developed. And on top of everything else, the guy could end up in prison. He could end up bankrupt. That's amazing. But what's going to happen in this country if that does happen? I talked to a podcast guest the other day who said it looks like we're headed to another civil war. Do you think that's true?
Maybe, but the whole thing with Trump and all, his followers have been locked up. More of them almost every other week get locked up.
Mm-hmm.
There are some ramifications to this. He did not win the presidency the second time, contrary to what his followers believe. Yes, we do have concerns about Biden and his popularity, but things are decent. We've got these union strikes going on. People are winning these fights against these corporations in America. The strikes are working, and the threats of strikes are working. People are making more money. Things are better. Bad news and bad opinions are going to spread 20 times faster than good opinions. And the economy could downturn tomorrow, yes, and it could go the other way. But I just do not see this crime syndicate taking control of the White House again.
No.
I hope you're right on that score.
And then also, as the notes that we have here, the 14th Amendment, that you could argue, and potentially it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. I guess it's in a gray area. I'm not a lawyer. I don't try to be one on the podcast, but there's some very strong opinions that this 14th Amendment pretty much is already in play, and all of this money that he's campaigning with and trying to get back in the White House is just for naught. And if that's true, that he is, and even his henchmen in some of these states, they have changed the rules to ensure that he stays on the ballot and wins the nomination in some of these states. What's going to happen that all of a sudden that he literally can't win? And by default, it's going to go very likely to a Democrat then. Okay, you get pissed off and you run out and whatever. Are you going to storm the Capitol again and get locked up for that? We've seen this play over already. Okay, you tried the Civil War once. It didn't work out too well. A lot of you got locked up and you had fines and all this other kind of stuff. I don't think it's really going to happen again. I don't see his base growing.
Yeah. You don't see his base growing, but it's not diminishing much either. He keeps running way, way ahead of everybody else in the Republican Party in the presidential sweepstake polls.
The thing that makes, Bob, you asked the question, are we headed toward a civil war?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we are. And I'm not sure that the way that the sides are shaping up, you could really call it, it's some other kind of conflict. It's not a civil war. When you have a civil war, it's usually one group of folks who represent the nation in its entirety taking on another group of folks who are members of that nation, but who want to secede or withdraw or cut themselves out or carve themselves out or whatever. In this case, both sides are supporting their own version of America. And you've got the Republican Party or the people led by the Republican Party with their own set of beliefs, but there's no question that they don't think of themselves as Americans. And of course, there's the other side, the Democrats and so on, and who also consider themselves Americans. So it's difficult to have a civil war when you got Americans saying they're Americans versus Americans also saying they're Americans. You got two battle lines and both sides have U.S. flags on them. That gets a little confusing. But what you might have is some sort of a schism coming up where the fundamentally different views of both sides of the equation here are drawing further and further apart with their differences of opinion, and they're being led by Trump. The other side's being led by Trump. And if Trump disappears from the scene, what's going to happen is somebody like Nikki Haley, I keep coming back to Nikki Haley because I think she's the most dangerous candidate of the bunch in terms of a possible Republican running against Biden. She's spending a lot of time trying to figure out how she could win over the moderate wing, what's left of it, of the Republican Party, and form a kind of a coalition. And she's been doing a lot of hard work on coming up with a stand on abortion that goes directly to that end. If Trump is kicked out, Haley's going to, I think, rise quickly to the top. and she's going to get a lot of support from wings of the Republican Party that are currently sitting on the sidelines now. And I think that'll make a much more formidable campaign against Biden if that's what happens. So maybe we don't want Trump to be found guilty or kicked out because of the 14th Amendment. Maybe we want him to stay there because he's an easier target.
And I haven't had a chance to actually read the rest of that opinion and all the what ifs. Does he get taken off the primary and someone goes in his place? And all that happens in time for the election, because Trump, of course, wants to have his election now before he gets and go into jail or what have you. We can't do that. He's already tried to change the election date and claim everything. He's not even in office. He's nothing right now, but just a former president. But that's all the what ifs. And I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a constitutional scholar or whatever, but these are all the what ifs and ramifications. And it's honestly sad that we have to sit here and debate this. And this tyrant and this crooked man is able to pull all these strings just to try to get back in the White House again and stay out of jail.
That's for sure. It struck me the other day when I read that this guy, Terrio, who was the leader of the Proud Boys, got 22 years in prison for his role in the insurrection. And he wasn't even there. But he, behind the scenes, led the thing. But if he got 22 years in prison, what's that say that Trump should get? Because Terrio and all these other people were doing Trump's bidding, right?
That's the theory. Number one, Trump doesn't have 22 years left.
Judge wouldn't care. The judge wouldn't care about that, right?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer either, so I don't know what the guidance would be, what the range of the penalty would be. But I don't. At least 20 years, I would think.
One of these times we should get a lawyer to join us on this show.
I'm going to repeat my premonition. If he gets sentenced, I still think he's going to die before he walks into a jail cell. I'm going to repeat that prediction. Yeah. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Well, you could be right.
Alternatively, though, they sent Napoleon to Elba, right? They didn't send him to French prison in Paris or something. They sent him to Elba, which actually, if you've ever seen a travelogue on Elba, is nice. So what they might do with Trump is maybe they'll put one of those ankle bracelets on him and lock him up at Mar-a-Lago, assuming he still owns it.
In the summer, because he doesn't stay in Florida in the summer. It's too hot. So.
Yeah, turn off the air conditioning.
He might not have a choice if he's got an ankle bracelet on.
Yeah.
Maybe that ankle bracelet will get hooked as something else and he'll be really stuck.
Yeah. Bless his heart.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this show, which is, what's today? Today is the 28th, Thursday, the 28th of September. While we're recording the show, the Republicans are trying to shut the government down. And it's getting serious. What do you guys think the implications are of all of that?
Time and time again, Citizens United, all of the rich people in America have put these Republicans in power. They have gerrymandered so that all these Republicans are in their place. They have told lies and lies for all of the uneducated Republican voters. If you look at it, a certain family member I'm thinking about right now that is on Obamacare, that is benefiting, that is also getting a Social Security check, that is actually getting government subsistence. I assume you gentlemen also get Social Security. I don't. I'm not old enough. Obviously, you didn't vote Republican, but there are ramifications. And for these people that have voted Republican for years, this is what y'all voted for. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. They want to cut down all this stuff that people who are really in need rely on. Poor people.
This is what y'all want. Sit down. This is what y'all want.
Incredible. I'm here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and sometimes I venture out of Myrtle Beach into the countryside, and where it's no longer fed by tourism, and people actually have to work for a living. And I pass these rundown, rickety, rusty house trailers with broken down vehicles in front and a big American flag out hanging up and a big Trump flag hanging up. Now, none of that makes any sense to me at all.
Yeah, it makes zero sense. But because of the racism and all the other stuff and blah, 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 and all this other, that they're going to still run out and vote Republican, but they're not voting in their own interest. And even Stacey Abrams said it herself, identity politics is going to be the death of us in this country. Is just voting Republican just because John Q or whoever said you needed to vote or that's who they're voting for. This is what y'all voted for. If it's going to burn down and the government shuts down for 4 months, this is what y'all want. But it's not going to happen. How many extra votes do the Republicans have in the House? Is it like 10?
Yeah, like that. Not much.
Okay, they're going to sit behind a closed door and they're just going to pass around a piece of paper and say, okay, which one of y'all is going to take the fall? It ain't going to last that long. So it's going to happen, Saturday night, potentially? Okay, maybe into next week. But these people are going to be pissed off as hell. Also, the donors to these Republican candidates that are up for re-election, they're going to be burning the doors down of where's my next check from? You realize that this is also going to have other implications. I'm going to be laying off employees and all this other implications that none of y'all want to talk about. And I guarantee you within a week, it's all going to be is way too big for them to just stand up there and act stupid and shut it down for a day or two.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do this, they started all this BS back in the 80s or even when Nixon was in office. It's way too big. That they've created way too big of a bureaucracy to try this stupid business.
Yeah.
Jim Jordan, who I think has a real solid chance to be the next Speaker of the House, maybe as soon as next week.
Ooh.
I don't know my blood pressure can handle that.
No.
Either him or Matt Gaetz is this, or it sure as hell Ed McCarthy. He's a speaker in name only. These are the guys that are running the House.
Anyway, I'm glad I took my blood pressure pill today.
McCarthy is just toothless. What a wimp. Oh my God. He's actually started it with all this stuff going on with the House threatening to shut down and they can't agree on a budget or on money and all this stuff. And they want to kill off all these programs for poor people. They're doing that at the same time that they're trying to impeach Biden over nothing. And they're spending all this time and money and effort on these impeachment hearings that just started about Biden, the Republicans. And
because they know people will talk about it and they know that's what they're based. Biden, he ain't done anything for me. And it's just,
here's an interesting extrapolation. The North Carolina General Assembly was supposed to have approved the budget for this year and next year back on June the 30th.
Yeah.
They went until last Friday before they finally got a budget. And it was Republicans fighting Republicans because they've got a veto-proof majority in both houses. And so it was a internecine feud among different Republicans about how the budget was going to be composed. Every day that they didn't adjourn like they were supposed to, they just did one of these fictitious things like, Bob, you know about this, like they do on Capitol Hill, where they stop the clock.
Yeah.
And, so it doesn't go to the next day, or they go into recess and they don't adjourn, so it doesn't go into the next legislative day. They pull one of those little tricks, and they kept the legislature open until last Friday when they finally passed the budget. Right. Every day it was open, it cost North Carolina taxpayers $10,000. Can you imagine, with all that stuff that's going on Capitol Hill now, that $10,000 is going to look like chicken change? It's going to be. I wonder what the U.S. taxpayer pays every day that Congress does one of these stupid things like try to impeach the president or pass a continuing resolution that they know the other house will not like, and just keeps posing and wasting our money on that sort of thing. I just wonder. Somebody ought to do a study on that and figure out how much it's costing the taxpayers every day they screw around like this.
Or all the tax breaks that the Republicans ushered in how many years ago that almost bankrupted the U.S. and only the rich people wanted and benefited from.
That's right. And by the way, members of Congress are exempt. They still get paid if there's a government shutdown because they passed a law that exempted them from from the federal budget. They get paid no matter what happens. Just want to lay that on the table.
Isn't that convenient?
Now we have this other stuff going on that just cracks me up. We have this Lynn Boebert who got in trouble because she was playing whatever she was playing in the movie theater, or not the movie theater, but
Yeah.
Guys, we have 27 bones in her hand, supposedly. Lauren apparently has 28 bones in her hand. So.
What did you just say? 28 what?
Bones in her hand.
Doesn't that mean that she's some kind of that there's a mythological implication there, right?
No, just she had an extra bone in her hand.
Extra bone. Oh yeah, and it was.
And they finally called on. There you go.
By the way, this happened at the Beetlejuice musical in downtown Denver, and she was accused by officials there of vaping, singing, recording, and causing a disturbance during the performance. And the disturbance that she was charged with was what?
There was an extra bone in her hand. So. And then it also comes out later that this gentleman actually owns a bar that does drag.
Oh, is that true?
You can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. No, you can't. And then I saw, wait a minute, where did I find it? I saw a story where some Democratic candidate for the state legislature.
Oh, Virginia.
Yeah, what were they doing? They were
on a porn site. She and her husband were on a porn site.
Yeah, they were raising money by doing sex videos on this porn site, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow it got
To show you that inappropriate behavior doesn't run along party lines.
Wait a minute, was that Tim Scott's Christian girlfriend?
Was that what? No, Scott's Christian girlfriend.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was Lindsey Graham. Excuse me.
I'm
Lady G.
happy that Tim Scott came out and said he had a girlfriend and that she's Christian. I really wouldn't want her to be anything other than Christian, right?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that sure doesn't check any boxes.
Yeah, I'm going to try and find the clip with the story about this Democratic candidate, because I want to put it out there. But anyhow, while I'm looking for it, then we had the thing where Cassidy Hutchinson, who I really like Cassidy Hutchinson, because she was the one that had the guts to really tell things the way they are at the White House, or the way they were at the White House under Trump during that hearing, during those impeachment hearings. Not impeachment hearings. What was it? The impeachment hearings where she testified? Cassie?
Yeah. Oh, it's January 6th hearing.
Yeah,
they were looking for some skeletons in closets. There's so many, it's hard to keep track. So.
Yeah. She said the other day that she had higher standards than to date Matt Gaetz. Now, saying that he is a very unserious lawmaker. Now, I didn't know that there was any question about her dating Matt Gaetz. Why would she want to date Matt Gaetz anyway? He's uglier than shit and an asshole.
So I'm going to ask this question again, and you gentlemen don't have to answer it, but okay, your child, because I think you guys have kids. I don't have kids. I just have a dog, but I wouldn't trust my dog with them either. But Matt Gaetz or Donald Trump or Trump Jr., would you trust your children in a room with these gentlemen alone? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, ew. It's just, they're creepy people. Rudy Giuliani, another example. Would you, ew.
Didn't Cassidy say that Giuliani hit on her as well?
Yeah, I think she did.
Probably.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Cassidy, she's a good-looking woman and she's young. And geez, why in the hell? Geez, a flip.
Yeah.
What's in the job description at the White House? Sexual harassment is expected. So.
Yeah. And Gaetz says in this article that I'm looking at, see, wait a minute here. He says he did date Cassidy for a few weeks when they were both single years ago. So they did date, he says. We parted amicably and remained friends thereafter, even during President Trump's post-presidency, when she asked me to help her secure housing in South Florida because she was eager to continue working for President Trump. It's sad to see Cassidy dishonestly turn against so many people who cared about her for fame and book sales, Getz said. Wow. Hodgson then said she gave Getz credit for part of his statement, adding that they did have an amicable working relationship and were good friends at points. Anyway, of course, she's got a book, so she's trying to sell the book. Yeah.
He said, she said. I don't know. I'm glad it hadn't gotten any worse than that. I'm glad we're not talking about more intimate relationships, like women running for the state legislature in Virginia. But it's the things we get into. There was a time when we didn't talk about sexual relationships and politics. There was a time we didn't even talk much about politics.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
times changed. Times have changed.
It's true. All right. I can't seem to find that story that had that about that Democratic legislative candidate who was doing sex tapes for money with her husband. So I can't name her because I can't find the story because I have too many of these clips to look through. Anyhow, what else did we want to talk about? Phew. The Alabama's latest congressional map got struck down by the federal court for diluting Black voting power. What do you guys think about that?
I think the first time this came up, the Trump Supreme Court said that you got to redraw the lines, and then after that, they just threw their hands up and went to lunch. It just didn't. It didn't seem to have any teeth to it because apparently there's not going to be a second district over there now. Nobody really seems to want to fight it anymore.
I just thought it was significant that happened in that southern state that is so racist. I just thought that was a remarkable decision and an important one.
The new maps for North Carolina are supposed to come out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I was asking about that.
There's going to probably be the Alabama decision is probably going to have some coattails as far as that's concerned. And since it's the legislature that's coming up with the maps, they're going to have 3 hearings in the whole state. They're going to have 3 hearings, one in this part of the state, and one in Raleigh, and then one in the western part of the state. 3 hearings, and then they're going to put the maps out, and that's going to be it. And I'm sure that somebody like Common Cause will probably sue because it's going to be even worse than it is now. And I'm sure that they're going to carve out new districts that are going to pretty much eliminate a couple of really good congressional incumbents who are Democrat. It's really a shame. And of course, they've packed the Supreme Court with Republican judges now. So if it gets up to the state Supreme Court will probably rule in the Republicans' favor. So looks like those maps are going to stick, at least for now. And we'll see what happens. But it'll be interesting to see if the Alabama case has any impact at all on what's going on here.
Okay. All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that Joe Manchin is considering running for the Senate or for president as an independent or on the no labels candidate, as a no labels candidate. And in Arizona, some 15,000 voters have signed up for that no labels initiative. Now, what do you guys think about all of that? The no labels thing and Joe Manchin and all that.
Yeah, again, on these episodes, this is the only place I'm hearing about this. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Traditionally, I think I've said it again before, third parties in this country just don't really have a lot of luck. And the way that campaign finance works in this country is a lot to blame for that. I don't see much viability coming behind this.
No, of course not. But what it does is it really, I think it threatens the success of the Democratic candidate, assuming that's Joe Biden. Don't you? It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's going to steal votes from take votes.
I think.
I think it's interesting that Ralph Nader said this week that not only is he not going to run for president, but he's going to support Biden, and he's going to discourage third party candidates from running. So I thought that was interesting. Nader said we can't afford Trump again. So he's uniting with Biden for his reelection campaign. I think that's interesting, and that might have an impact on people who are thinking about voting for this no labels thing. Problem is nobody knows what no labels stands for. They don't have a platform. They don't have a candidate. They don't have anything. It's just a bunch of folks who got together and decided to start this organization. It could hurt Biden, but it could also hurt Trump or whoever the Republican candidate is, because depending on if they nominate Joe Manchin, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Republicans that'll support him. So I think it's just as likely that it'll take votes away from the Republican Party as it is the Democrats.
Do you think so?
And then another name that you can throw in this hat is Robert F. Kennedy. What in the world he's got going on?
Right.
Oh, that's a weird situation to me.
Yeah.
He talks like a Republican. He doesn't talk like a Kennedy Democrat.
That's even another wild card in the middle of all of this, too.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen more about him than I have about the No Labels Party.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a friend of mine told me at dinner the other night that there's another no labels type party being cooked up here in South Carolina. I can't remember what the name of it is, but apparently it's a bunch of people trying to claim that they're not left, they're not right, they're in middle of the roaders, and they're tired of all the back and forth arguments between the left and the right. And apparently that's another initiative. Matter of fact, they wanted this friend of mine, to run for a local office under that party label. And he said, no, I'm a Democrat. I'm not going to do that. So there's some weird stuff going on, that's for sure. So
where are the Tea Partiers? Where did they go?
They're still there. A bunch of these Republican goofballs that are trying to shut down the government, they're Tea Partiers, aren't they?
I think they were.
Themselves a new name.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Tea Party is still a viable organization, but there sure are a lot of people out there who continue to believe what the Tea Party believed back in the day.
That was Jim Jordan, right?
Yeah, along with Jim Jordan, right? Exactly. Next Speaker of the House.
Yeah,
you're killing me,
yeah.
Arthur. You're killing me. I got to take another blood pressure pill after that.
By the way, the name of that woman in Virginia, that was Virginia, that was doing the videos with her husband for money, the sex videos. Her name is Susanna Gibson, and she's running for the state legislature, and she's a Democrat. So I wish her luck. I do. I hope she raises enough money doing that she'll be successful. I do.
Certainly getting exposure.
All right.
With only 27 bones in her hand. No, wait, maybe she does have extra.
Okay. Book bans here in South Carolina, right here in Horry County, where I live, Myrtle Beach. These Republican goofballs are trying to ban books, just like they are in Florida and elsewhere. And the local Democrats are trying to fight them. But they have these hearings, school board meetings, not hearings, but school board meetings, and they allow people to get up and speak. And they've had 2 of these meetings so far, and the place has been stacked by the pro-book banners. I almost said book burners, and the opposition, the Democrats, and some of the other folks who are opposed have shown up, but they're only given not even a minute to speak. And it looks like the school board is going to ban a bunch of books, which is just incredible to me. What kind of country do we live in where we're banning books, that telling people you can't read this book because it's
sounds a lot like Nazi Germany to me. I'll make a couple of comments on that. Anything that you want a kid to read, you tell them not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually you guys are parents, right?
Yeah.
How this typically works for kids. Number one. Number two, and we talked about this before we started recording, if this is happening in a school library, consider running for school council, or if you haven't won that battle, I think a lot of public libraries have steering committees that you can go work with. I was talking to you gentlemen earlier that I get most of my newspaper access through online access through the county library here in DeKalb County. The same thing before I moved here over in Cobb County. It's free access, can save you some money, use your tax dollars for that. And if you have extra books around your house, or there is a banned book that someone is trying to ban, okay, go and buy a copy and donate it back to your library. These are the kinds of pretty quiet things that you can do to combat these crazy people. This is not Nazi Germany. This is America. We have freedom of speech. And this is how you can combat these people. And I guarantee you make these arguments in front of these crazy people, they have no way to respond to you. They're just going to get mad. They're going to throw their hands up in the air and go run the other way, just because someone told them to show up with a prepared script and talk.
That's a really good point, Robert. That really is.
Where was I think it was some Democratic organization, but I can't remember where it was, that had a kind of a bookmobile, and they were going around with this bookmobile, and it had all the banned books in it. And
yeah.
People, a private library, and they were driving around and they were letting people take out these books and read them that had been banned.
Two other things on that point. Usually your local comic book shop, I know there's one here in Tucker, they would promote things like this. Just go and talk to the local comic book shop owner. They would probably say they probably have a banned book section, because a lot of comic book readers are pretty liberal about things. And then also my neighbor down the street, I wouldn't say I'm going to run over there and put a banned book in the box, but he actually has a box at his house that's just a local come by and borrow a book and leave a book kind of thing, generally for children to promote reading. But you have an organization that promotes that kind of thing around America too. So there's so many other ways that we can spend our efforts versus trying to argue these people, because they're just getting up there and reading a script that somebody told them to read. They don't understand what they're doing.
That's a very good point, Robert. Very good point. I wanted to mention to you guys, when we were talking about the insurrection, I have an interview scheduled with a guy who has written a book called "We Stormed the Capitol: Eyewitness Accounts of January 6th." This guy named Ben Hamilton, here's the book. He is a journalist, and he went to Washington on January 6th with the purpose of interviewing the people who were there, and he's a history teacher is what he is, not a journalist. He's a history teacher. And he wanted to, and so he did this book, "We Stormed the Capitol," and it's interview quotes from the participants. And it's really a fascinating book. And as I said, I'm interviewing this guy for a podcast, which will be coming up, which will be streaming soon on the Lean to the Left podcast. So I just wanted to mention that. You guys have anything else?
Read the book. I bet you that'd be interesting.
I'm good.
Yeah, it is. It is. Matter of fact, I can send you a link.
Okay.
It's online.
I'll tell you what would be interesting. It'd be interesting to follow up with those people that were interviewed to see what they think now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. He took pictures too, and of the people he interviewed, and of the activities of the insurrection and so on. And so those pictures are in the book. They're black and white. They're not very well reproduced, I don't think, but at any rate, right, they're there. And it's a fascinating book. I'm looking forward to talking to this guy, Ben Hamilton. Okay, anybody else?
No, good.
Okay.
Crammed a lot of stuff in that hour.
Yeah, we did. We really did. We probably had more than we could do, but anyway, that's good. I thank you guys very much, and I appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening and tuning in on the Lean to the Left Dixie Dems episode. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this Lean to the Left video and that you learned something as well. Please come back on a regular basis and check out our interviews with guests on topics that I hope you find interesting, entertaining, and enlightening. And you can check out the schedule of upcoming shows, guests, and topics at podcast.leantotheleft.net. You can also subscribe to our audio version there or to our video shows here at YouTube. And follow us on social media, Facebook at the Lean to the Left Podcast, Twitter at Lean to the Left 1, Instagram at BobGaddy_Lean to the Left, and TikTok at Lean to the Left. Our goal is to be informative and entertaining as we and our guests comment on the latest developments in the news and about the social issues that concern us all. This is Bob Gaddy signing off for Lean to the Left. Thanks for sharing your time with us.